'Cause I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't wait no more, seen it all change and I know that's for you. Tell me not to wait too long, I don't gotta wait when I make this for you. Tell them not to wait too long, you don't gotta wait when you let fate guide you. Wake up, feel it when you take off, feel it when you say God, feel it when you say love, feel it when you wake up, feel it when you're patient, feel it on my radar, feel it from the Savior, feel it on the road, but the devil can't tell on me. In the deep, but the soul's still a mystery. Science see that we're more than a human being, spirit with divinity, another time really be.
God's sun shines when the day grows dark and the world over fantasize. Every single part now I'm speaking like a Amreica. I'm trying to do my part. God shared gifts, so I let him make it smart.
It was hard times living in a system that was too scared to share the truth and make a difference. I was sitting in ambition, then I saw the vision. I would multiply the love and subtract the division. And I'm not a mathematician, but it didn't add up. Praising politicians when they try to mask us. They say they're about the science, but they fake the data. They say they're gonna save us, but they really lab rat us. I don't really want to blindfold, see both sides, or keep your eyes closed. Still accept the lies, well, sorry I don't. All that we deny will still be exposed. And I know these are hard times living. Most of us have reached our limit. The devil on attack with more clone gimmicks. There's no more time to be timid. Live this life with the light of the risen. 'Cause I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't wait no more, seen it all change and I know that's for you. Tell me not to wait too long, I don't gotta wait when I make this for you. Tell them not to wait too long, you don't gotta wait when you let fate guide you. Wake up, feel it when you take off.
That works a normal job. You're a cashier, you're a receptionist or whatever. Last time COVID came around, we kind of gave you guys a pass for trying to enforce the mask stuff because we knew it wasn't really coming from you. So we didn't want to ruin your day. Unfortunately, we can't do that this time because the government's going to push us around through you. So we have to push back through you. Unfortunately, we're not going to allow the need and desire to be cordial and polite to destroy the need for us to do smart things and avoid stupid things like putting something on your face that's not actually effective. So I don't want to do this. No offense at all. But just so you know, we're not going to let it slide this time. Sorry about that. No offense. Only love for you. But you're going to catch these ideological hands. And what I mean by that is you're going to learn everything about masks and how stupid what you're asking us to do is. And we're going to demand to talk to your higher ups and they're going to get educated too. That's the way it's going to work this time. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be real awkward. But you know what's more awkward? Doing dumb shit that doesn't work in mass. That's more awkward. So.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. America's Mom here with the Mister today, live on Frank's Speech and all of our other social media platforms. Thank you guys for being with us today. Yeah, the stupidity is coming back. Who could have thunk it? Mister, thank you for being with us on America's Mom today.
Yeah, my pleasure. And yes, so I love the way that he put that. We don't have to be mean and jerks and snotty about it, although we might be because we're tired of it because we've been experiencing this for, what, 3-4 years now? I've lost track of time. We can politely say no. And so the interesting thing is, right, I mean, the first time around, none of us were really sure what was going on. Is this a test on humanity? Is this a test on my patients? They were calling some of us essential and non-essential. They were telling us to stay in our homes. They were telling us we couldn't play in the park with our kids. They were telling us we had to put something over our face to mask ourselves. They were telling us to be quiet. They were telling us that we couldn't go to our kids' softball game or basketball game because there was a max capacity that you could reach, and you couldn't be very close to somebody because you maybe going to get something from them or you're going to give something to them. All this stuff that we now know was complete and utter nonsense. This time around, we just have to say no. Then the people said no, the end. That's it. We just have to not comply. So here's what's happening, you guys. We're starting to see it again. We're seeing the mandates starting to go up again in schools. We're seeing it. There's a lot of buzz about the airlines right now. We're seeing more and more people doing the compliance thing again, and everybody keeps talking about the jabs and the masks and all this stuff, or we're seeing it at concerts, venues like that, where they say you can't enter unless you have the stuff right there in your arm, or you also have to wear one of those face diapers over your face. So we just have to collectively say, no, thank you. We're not going to do that at the grocery store with the clerks. The people got a chance. The workers that were just doing their job, right? They just said that, and I get it. I'm just doing my job. I have to tell you to do this or that. They got a pass the first time around. No passes this time. And it can't be 1 out of 100 of us that decide not to comply. So there's the 1 out of 100 that's the oddball, easy to target. Police get called. They have the little ruckus going on. You get hauled off, whatever. If there's 50 out of 100, that's a real problem for the powers that be, because they're counting on our compliance, right? It's always problem, reaction, solution. The powers that be create the problem. They use the media to create the reaction, the fear-based, oh no, what are we going to do? There's this new disease going on, this fear-based reaction. And then they say, don't worry, government will take care of you. We're just going to raise your taxes a little bit. We're going to have a few mandates on you. It's going to be 14 years to flatten the curve, or I mean 14 days, whichever. It might take a while, but it's all right because we have this thing called the NWO, otherwise known, AKA New World Order, coming, and we'll take care of all that. You'll have live in your tiny house.
Yes. Whoa. Hang on. For everybody watching at home, hit the share button right now. Make sure you're sharing this out to everybody, because we're going to tell you the real truth of what's going on. The Mister's joining me today, guys. Every Tuesday, 2 o'clock, you're going to be able to find us both here for you, sharing out all the nitty gritty. And of course, you know, as the Mister just said, mandates are coming back. I want everybody to know also, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Erin Elsmore joining us. You might remember her from this hit show. It was Donald Trump's and what is it called? Like The Apprentice or something like that. She's going to join us here in just a few minutes. But yeah, I mean, what you're talking about right now, I was having a conversation with a teacher yesterday who said they still have COVID policies in place, still at the public school system. They are talking about COVID hitting the school again. I mean, it's all coming back, and this is the time where people have to make that decision. I like the video that you shared because, you know, they kept saying, I just work here. There's nothing I can do. That's not true.
Yeah, you know, it's this little thing called just comply. Remember that? And now it's turned into a do everything we tell you and don't question. And it always, you know, you give the government $1, they want $100. You give them $100, they want 1,000. You give them 1,000, they want 1,000,000. They're not going to stop. And so it's time for us just to politely say no. And I'm sorry if it seems like I have a little wee bit of attitude, but I'm not the only one. There's a lot of folks that have a little wee bit of attitude because we couldn't go to our parents' funeral. We couldn't go see grandma in the hospital. Remember those things, you guys. Remember what they did to us, so we will never, ever let it happen again. And, you know, all this stuff, not just the mandates, but this whole left-wing sort of satanic agenda to sexualize kids and all this stuff, we just have to say no. And I suppose there's a time to be polite, but maybe there's also a time to turn tables and show a little bit of attitude and say, absolutely not, don't mess with our kids. This whole agenda is sort of becoming one big conglomeration of do what we tell you or else. This is the way it's going to be. And if you don't comply, this is what we're going to do. Whether it's even the CBDCs that are coming out, all this stuff. I know we're kind of just spilling a lot or puking a lot here, but there's a lot of things where we can take control again. We can take the bull by the horns collectively. It starts with us individually, but then collectively as our communities, our neighborhoods, our schools, we can say no and take the power back that way.
So what do we do? So let's just talk about what that actually looks like. When we had this experience, we knew right out the gate this was a sham. We gave it the 2 weeks that President Trump said, hey, let's all take 2 weeks and see, and you know, we'll be fine. And we were fine, and we knew we were. We spent that time reading journals, reading science, seeing all the information that was already out there, peer-reviewed studies that already told us masks were a sham. We knew there was no actual vaccine that could do anything about this coronavirus. No matter what they came up with, we were never going to fall for that. So we created a parents union. And what happened from there? Just kind of remind everybody what it's going to take. You're going to have to resuscitate your committees, your action committees again.
Yeah, that's right. What we did is what everybody ought to be doing, and not that we were the prime example, but we looked at what others were doing that was working. What were people doing? They were getting together as communities. They were forming parents committees. They were forming school committees. They were forming nonprofits. Churches were getting together, believers were banding together. And what that does is it gives us power in numbers. And so we were showing up, not just two or three or five of us at a school board meeting. We had hundreds of people show up at school board meetings. We would show up a half hour, an hour, 2 hours beforehand, pray around the building. We would give some motivational messages before the school board meeting started. We would come in mass and speak, and we was always peaceful, always, despite what the school administrators or school boards would try to say. But it was intimidating. It was very intimidating, and it should be, because people had had enough. Stop telling me what to do with my health, my body, and my child. And so that's what you have to do, is form committees, get together with other people, like-minded individuals in your community. It all starts local, you guys. And that's how we have to do it. And you don't need to wait for a seat at the table or wait for somebody to ask you to join something. You can start. You make your own table. You don't have to wait for someone to invite you there. You create that community, and you start right there. And that's really, isn't that the essence of what the founding fathers and those documents told us to do? They said, isn't there a document that talks about peaceful protesting? Our First Amendment right, our right to freedom of speech, our right to gather. It's all those rights that are being trampled on right now. And the more we comply, we've learned over the last 3 years, the more freedoms they take from us. So it's not just, well, hopefully this will go away in another few months if we just all comply and get together. That's never what this was about. It was always to take, have more control, raise our taxes, and make this, this big gap much larger between the peasants and the royalty.
Yeah.
And we say no.
And just to be clear, this 2019, 2020, 21 was the largest transfer of wealth in known history, not modern history, but in known history. A lot of things happened that weren't for our benefit. The richer got far more richer, the poor got far more poor, and the middle class is being annihilated right now. It's really fascinating to watch it. Almost a 300% increase in house prices, or 150% increase in house prices in Colorado. I mean, the average person now, because of what happened under the guise of COVID, it was a massive transaction of wealth. It was not for the betterment of society at all, at large. It was for a small fraction of people, the same ones the left always claim they're going up against, big corporations, big conglomerates. And yet we really have viable solutions for that. We've been talking about this. We've been talking about the creation of parallel economies. And I know we were going to wait till the end, but I want to just kind of address this now. Aaron's going to be joining us in just a few moments. But if we don't start taking action right now and make sure that we have community that we're purchasing from, we know where we're getting our food from, we know where we're getting our everyday household items from, places we can trust that are vetted, that we know are for our benefit, are for our good, we're going to be in a really bad spot. Jim Nils is going to be joining us later in the week. He's a supply chain expert who's been talking about this really loudly, that if Americans don't learn to shop America first, American manufacturing, we are contributing to the takeover of our own country and the advancement of this globalist agenda. COVID 2.0, lockdown 2.0, mandated vax 2.0. We're contributing to that every single time we spend our money with people that have nothing but ill will in mind for us, as they just demonstrated. They showed us. It's not conspiracy. They actually showed us. So what do you suggest for that? What should Americans be doing to help fill that gap and make sure they're meeting, getting what they need, but meeting this goal of America first, American manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, it's always local, local, local. If you can buy things local from people you know, small businesses that you trust, obviously do that. And then, of course, we have an answer for something that's, one of the biggest companies in the United States that can actually scale, compete, and win against these huge conglomerates that are controlling us. The Johnson and Johnsons, the Unilevers, all those companies. We can actually compete against those. And so, I mean, this is a plug for Patriot Switch. Go to patriotswitch.com/mom there and find out more, because that really is the answer. American made manufacturer, supporting American workers. That is the answer to what's going on here. And many, like you said, economists will say, if we don't address that, we're going to lose our country.
Absolutely. And speaking of losing our country and all the crazy stuff that's going on, I want to share this with you guys right now. Aaron's going to be joining us in just a second, and I have to help us all understand exactly how corrupt this administration is, how corrupt the witch hunt of Georgia is, the indictments that are happening not just in Georgia but in New York against President Trump. Now remember, what's on the table? The table is lied about the elections, tried to rig an election, tried to steal an election by telling the American public that the election was stolen. Well, what do you know? Everyone pay
You can run the best
attention
campaign.
here.
You can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
How can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the
That's
real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Could you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes in the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by the Russian interference.
There absolutely is a cloud of illegitimacy.
So that legitimacy is in question, yes. So that was a very tainted election. And in that sense, it's illegitimate.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he knows he didn't. He knows he's an illegitimate president.
Stolen emails, stolen drone, stolen election. Welcome to the world of unprecedented Trump.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract.
The Russian attempt to have the election, and frankly, the FBI is weighing in on the election, I think makes his election illegitimate.
There was a widespread understanding that this election was not on the level.
Whoa.
We still don't know what really happened, Isaac. I mean, there's just a lot that
There's an election denier right there.
Field history will discover.
Something's going on.
But you don't win by 3 million
going on
votes and have all this other shenanigan stuff going on and not come away with an idea like, whoa, something's not right here.
The outcome of the election was affected by their interference. And now we need to know, to what degree, if any, the Trump campaign was actually in collusion with with Russia.
He knows he's an illegitimate president. So of course he's obsessed with me. And I believe that it's a guilty conscience.
We actually won the last presidential election, folks. They stole the last presidential election.
And Al Gore won that election. I think he won it anyway.
Actually, I think I carried Florida.
Bush versus Gore. A court took away a presidency.
If all the votes were counted in Florida, that Al Gore would be president today and George Bush would be back in office.
I come from Florida, where you and others participated in what I call
This could go on forever.
coup d'etat.
There's no doubt in my mind that Al Gore was elected president.
I rise to object to the fraudulent 25 Florida electoral votes.
I must object
Okay, this is significant.
evidence of official misconduct, deliberate fraud, and an attempt
The chair must remind.
It is signed by myself on behalf of my diverse constituents and the millions of Americans who have been disenfranchised by Florida's inaccurate vote count. The Supreme
I tell you what, we're gonna stop right there because it's 12 minutes, you guys. 12 minutes
Of election deniers.
Election deniers over and over and over saying that elections previous were stolen. But here's something I want to point out is right there they were talking about recalling the electorates from Florida. What was the strategy for January 2020? What is it that President Trump is being accused of? They're saying that Brad Raffensperger okay, who is the Secretary of State now for the state of Georgia. It was his election. He was running, he was running for Secretary of State. And the accusation is that Trump called Raffensperger and said, find me more votes, find me more votes. And also recall the electorates. Well, the Democrats were screaming for there's got to be more votes here. The Democrats were screaming recall the electorates. But here's the difference. Mike Pence, and maybe you saw this video, Neil, but Mike Pence recently admitted that that he could, number one, recall the electorates. We know this for a fact because Congress actually changed the law right after. Okay, they conspired together and they changed the rule that the vice president can no longer have that authority to independently recall the electorates. Okay, this is insanity, but this is what just happened the last 2 years. Mike Pence publicly said last week, I could have recalled the electorates, but then they would have gone back to the House of Congress and it would have been chaos. And I didn't want to deal with that. He's been lying to the people of this country for the last 2.5 years, saying that that was never a path forward. That is the path that originally Ivan Ranklin laid out for Mike Pence to follow in order to make for certain that our elections were legitimate. That's all that was ever about. It was a constitutional path forward. Ivan Ranklin is a constitutional attorney and a former Green Beret, worked in the DOD. I mean, this was his life. He was there when the memos were written between Comey and Wray. He knows exactly what was going on there, and he's been very vocal and public about it. But more than that, he's been helpful in finding a constitutional pathway forward, which is what he attempted to do in order to help the people of America to establish a real election. And what happened there, and what Pence just admitted, is that he did have the authority to do it. And that's why not one of those Democrats that you just heard saying that previous elections were illegitimate and that they needed to recall the electorates will ever look at any indictments or jail time, because what they're doing isn't illegal. It is completely appropriate for you to question, to want more transparent and more upright elections. That is a normal part of this whole process, and it's exactly what's supposed to be happening. Now, it's all backfiring, okay? So if Erin jumps in here, awesome, but I'm going to keep talking like I'm her for a few minutes. It's all backfiring.
I believe she's in, but
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
there, but she's not there, so we'll wait and see. But anyway, what's happening right now is everything is backfiring. So let's just start to your point. I'm going to share this to your point about what's really going on and how Trump is winning the day. Trump is literally winning the day. So tell me what you guys think of this. This is so fascinating. What do you think? What is the real picture?
Which is which? Yeah,
Which
I mean,
is
the lighter one was the first one that came out that I saw. And that's the first one that really took off, and that's the one where T-shirts are being made and things like that. And then there was this I don't know, a conspiracy that maybe the other one where he looks a little more orange was actually the actual photo. So, but I don't know. I think the one that really took off, speaks the most. It kind of has the most power behind it, but both are good. I don't know how much time to actually spend on it, but it was interesting that two came out. Be a nice question to ask Erin. But.
I mean, well, you worked in corrections, though. Let me just, people were saying that the photo back there should have like height. It should have the name of the county jail on it. Is that true?
I mean, it normally does. I'm sure that they're bending rules for this. I mean, it's hard for me to know what's going on behind the scenes because there's so much chatter, so much talk about what's actually happening. So I don't know. And then there was a lot of talk about the lighting. Everybody's picture, the lighting was really off. It was like half of their face was sort of lit up and the other half was darker. But we are getting messages, excuse me, from Erin that she is backstage and waiting to come on. So.
Well, let me see what I can do. Maybe I'll just put you in the corner for just a moment and see if maybe that's part of the problem. Just a sec. All right, we'll see if we can get Erin on here in just a second here. Erin Ellsmore, of course, you guys may recognize her. Of course, she is a U.S. attorney. She's been working with Trump's team. She also was on the Trump show, The Apprentice, which was probably the only thing I watched. That's the last program I ever watched. Absolutely a winner, because that's really all he does. But just 1 second, guys. Okay, well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna bring the mister back in. I don't know. We're having a glitch there. I see that she's there, but I can't bring her photo up, her picture up. So I don't know what is going on. We've only got a few more minutes left of our show, and we'll get Erin back on here again. That's too bad. I'm really excited for you guys to meet her and hear from her, because she is super pithy and salty after having worked with Trump for so long and seen everything that's happening with him right now. We have 4 major indictments, of course, coming out of Georgia. They all are linked to conspiracy to rig an election, meaning Trump said, hey, there's got to be more votes. Hey, we need to recall the electorate. Everything that the American people were saying is exactly what Trump was saying, and it's not illegal. So this is going to be fascinating. And just to make sure people really understand here, there is not yet an election lawsuit that's been heard from the 2020 election. Really, you need to understand, no evidence has been able to be brought forward. I've been talking with Sidney Powell frequently since my last interview with her, and she is preparing right now for the speedy trial she requested. It's her constitutional right. She is one of the 19 that were indicted. And this will be the first time, you guys, that a jury of your peers will hear the actual proof of the rigged 2020 election. So you tell me who's winning. This is the first time the American people are going to have an opportunity to actually hear everything that I know, everything that Mike Lindell knows, everything that President Trump knows, everything that Sidney Powell knows, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellsworth. Everybody knows this stuff except for the majority of the populace who can't articulate exactly what happened the night of the 2020 election and even the weeks following. So this is going to be the first time that we actually get to litigate it publicly. We get to see it all happen right there in real time, hear everything in real time. There is incredible things happening even right now in the state of Michigan. We're seeing that exposures are happening. Videos are being released of ballots that were harvested, that were added to the vote count late at night by who knows who. I mean, where did those ballots come from? Nobody knows. There was no chain of custody. You're seeing these videos coming out everywhere because the American people have had enough. So I want to turn it back over to you for just a few minutes, but this really is unprecedented times we're living in. And Sidney Powell, I want to just let everybody know, she had asked if everyone will go to defendtherepublic.com and go make a contribution to her defense, because Sydney's been fighting this battle, as you all remember, released the Kraken. She had more than enough evidence back then, but was instantly sanctioned. Project 65 is an organization, a left-wing Marxist communist organization that's part of the NWO that's working to destroy our republic. And they have been systematically going around the country and shutting down any attorney that is willing to get into this fight. And Sidney Powell was one of the very first ones that she was sanctioned in 6 different states. They've tried to take her license from her. Right now, John Eastman is from Colorado. They're attempting to disbar him right now. He's one of the 19 as well. These people were the few that were very prominent, very professional, renowned in their field. I mean, Sidney Powell is a former prosecutor. She's a U.S. federal prosecutor. Yep. I mean, this is not like your backyard attorney. These people are legit. They know what they're doing, and they're the first ones that the left wanted removed because they know what they're doing. So go to restoretherepublic.com. No, it's defendtherepublic.com. Sidney Powell's organization. Go check everything out there. A wealth of information to start educating you on the evidence that's going to be brought forward. So, yeah, in our last few minutes, I'm going to turn it over to you. Wrap us up. Take us home.
Yeah, and think about with the first primary debate, the fake debate, I called it, which I was marked safe from watching that, by the way. Did they talk much about election integrity at that debate?
No, not once.
Did they talk much about the sexualization or mutilation of children?
Not once.
So I just want to, like, as we're wrapping up here, guys, be discerning about these people coming up, trying to run against Trump and this and that. If they're not talking about those issues, I'd say they're fakes. Just to put kind of a general statement out there, because these are the real issues we're battling. We're in a fight to save our republic, which means every vote counts, which means saving our elections, and also which means saving our children. If we don't do those 2 things, we have nothing. So we've got to do that. And then, as we said earlier, we've got to bring back manufacturing to the United States. PatriotSwitch.com/mom. We have the answer. And one of our amazing persons will get in contact with you when you go to that site, fill out your information. That would be awesome. And that's how we're wrapping up.
All right. Thank you guys for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time, live on frankspeech.com.
I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't wait no more, seen it all change and I know that's for you. Tell me not to wait too long, I don't gotta wait when I make this for you. Tell them not to wait too long, you don't gotta wait when you let fate guide you. Wake up, feel it when you take off, feel it when you say God, feel it when you say love, feel it when you wake up, feel it when you're patient, feel it on my radar, feel it from the Savior, feel it on the road, but the devil can't tell on me. In the deep, but the soul's still a mystery. Science see that we're more than a human being, spirit with divinity, and know that's how it really be.
God's sun shines when the day grows dark and the world over fantasize every single part. Now I'm speaking like Amreica, I'm trying to do my part. God shared gifts, so I let him make it smart.
It was hard times living in a system that was too scared to share the truth and make a difference. I was sitting in ambition, then I saw the vision. I would multiply the love and subtract the division. And I'm not a mathematician, but it didn't add up. Praising politicians when they try to mask us. They say they're about the science, but they fake the data. They say they're gonna save us, but they really lab rat us. I don't really want to blindfold, see both sides, or keep your eyes closed. Still accept the lies, well, sorry I don't. All that we deny will still be exposed. And I know these are hard times living. Most of us have reached our limit. The devil on attack with more clone gimmicks. There's no more time to be timid. Live this life with the light of the risen. 'Cause I don't gotta wait no more, chasing after things that they just can't tell you. Tell me I don't